from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, folks, happy Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. James Azar here for the Practitioner Brief. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this awesome planet. You're obviously with us because we're online, but we've got a really busy show today. Really busy. And I mean, really busy. If you see the tabs on the screen, there's 7 of them. I've rarely ever done 7, but today was a day where there were 7 different stories to talk about. So before we do that, let me just get some announcement out the way. We'll do our coffee cup cheers. We'll get to your comments and we'll get right into the show because it is a loaded one today. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned till the very end. A few things. 1, please subscribe to the CyberHub podcast. You don't want to miss these every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Please make sure to follow us. Go check out our YouTube channel. A lot of really cool content there as well. Later today, a new CISO Talk episode is dropping with my good friend, Michael Felker, the VP of Information Security over at the Leaf Group. A wonderful conversation about the Chief Financial Security Officer. A wonderful conversation. Don't miss it. 40 minutes that'll be well spent this afternoon if you've got a few minutes to check that out. A shout out to our supporters of today's program, and thus is KnowBe4. We're getting ready to get this whole thing going on, and we're going to get into the whole Facebook story as well, folks. But before we do that, what are you drinking this morning? Because I'll tell you something. If you were any one of the big companies yesterday, you probably were drinking a ton of coffee during the day, and then you chased it down with one of my bourbons, thanks to Mr. Hurley here who says good morning. So without further ado, coffee cup cheers, folks. My Illy double espresso. You're just smells great. Cheers. Larry did not win the Powerball, so he's back at work. Poor Larry. Good morning to Ashley. Morning to David. Morning to Marcia. Zoe's here for the Facebook breakdown. Good morning to Mr. McQuiggan and Coffee Cup. Cheers. You've got your Tim Hortons. I've got my Illy. So let's get right into what's going on. Pumpkin Death Wish coffee. Man, that sounds great, Hurley. Love it. All right, let's talk about Facebook. Facebook went offline yesterday for about 6.5, 7 hours in total, just about. The world went crazy. The conspiracy theorists came out. Oh, it's the whistleblower thing on 60 Minutes. It's all of these things. It's a nation-state cyber attack targeting Facebook. It's a search warrant on Facebook. It's the federal government. It's the FBI. And folks, it's none of that. I realize we as humans have imagination, but sometimes we are our own worst enemies. And the detriment to positive security output and view by our peers who are not security experts in the companies we work in is not being conspiracy theories and sticking to the facts. Here's what we do know for sure. The Facebook statement, everything that supports it. And now you guys are going to tell me there's a bunch of stuff around it. I've done the research and I'll paint you the picture of what happened on September 30th and why everything came crashing down yesterday. So here's what we know happened at Facebook. Facebook is known within their engineering community. I know this from people within Facebook that they bring on new engineers and they almost give them the keys to the kingdom to do this kind of work. Now we can talk about responsibility and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But at the end of the day, yep, Mr. Rosen nails it down right there. They're BGP. So essentially what happened is it's always DNS. It's always something to do with your DNS when you go down. That's typically what's going on. And so the disruption actually had a cascading effect because it went into it halted every single data center, and every single data center needed to reboot manually. And in some cases, the people who could get in didn't have the expertise to do it. So there was it was a single point of failure within the DNS, but then they didn't have the manpower and the expertise to really get it back up quicker. It took a little bit more time. They had to actually get it back up. So this kind of everything went down at 11:50 a.m. Eastern yesterday. All websites essentially went down with DNS errors and connection attempts. The border gateway protocol, which is the routing protocol, is the one that really did break with the Facebook story yesterday. This wasn't a cyber attack. This wasn't a anything of that nature, folks. Really, it was just a slew of bad lucks. Sometimes it is what it is, and that's what it was for Facebook yesterday. You guys know I always keep it true and real, and that's what it was yesterday. It was probably CR says, was it an intern? I don't know. And here's the thing. They're not saying who it is. I don't think they should. I'm sure some congressman or senator is going to try to make a buck off of this and make himself a little campaign ad and summon Facebook and talk about this outage and what happened and that they have too much power and all that good stuff. But technology, as magnificent as it is, all right, as magnificent as it is, still interacts with humans. Humans still interact with technology, and it's bound to have some mistakes. So, there's that. Now, that led to something else that came up yesterday, and this is our next story today. I kind of want to give it to you. So we were on a Clubhouse room last night. Some of you were there. Some of you may not have been. And someone goes, well, Amazon's down, and a lot of these services are all also going down. And here's what happened there. Let's Encrypt, which is essentially the HTTPS nonprofit certificate issue. A lot of their certificates expired on September 30th. Now, if you go back to the calendar, September 30th was Thursday, October 1st, Friday. Some people didn't renew their certificates for some of their domains. And so some of those did not work, and they showed that they were down by nature. So the root certificate of Let's Encrypt, which expired for many, many companies on September 30th, caused a issue for many organizations. Of those, folks, here we go. Bluecoat, Palo Alto, Cisco, Catchpoint, Guardian Firewall, Monday.com, Serb, OpenSense, Google Cloud, OVH, Auth0, Shopify, Xeros, Fastly, Fortinet, Heroku, Instapage, Cloudflare, Mailgun, Facebook, Sophos, cPanel, AWS, and DigitalOcean. None of them have been impacted, but all of them had their certificates expire. Pointing it out, sometimes it's when it rains, it pours, and that's exactly what's going on here. Now, I want to go to the next story because this is the one everyone's sleeping on because Facebook seems sexier. But this, folks, this is the one we all got to have our eyes and ears and everything up for. The largest mobile SMS routing firm discloses a 5-year breach. The world's most connected company, Syniverse, provides text messaging routing services to over 300 mobile operators, including Vodafone, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, America Mobile, Telefonica, and China Mobile. They're so big that it brags about having its customers in nearly every mobile communication provider. Here you go. These guys on September 27th filed a report with the US SEC that they've disclosed that an unauthorized party accessed on several occasions their database on their network in a 5-year breach. Now you go, James, why is that big? Right here. Because according to the company, its infrastructure processes more than 740 billion messages every single year for 5 years. 5 years. Let me repeat that. 5 years, 740 billion text messages, including ones by CEOs of companies, world leaders, military personnel. I can keep going. There's no attribution to the breach. We don't know all the details yet, meaning how they got in, what was the source, were they able to actually read the text messages? Now, text messages in itself on your phone, when you text someone, when you're not using Signal, when you're not using WhatsApp, right? It's not encrypted. meaning that data being transmitted over open network can be intercepted by anyone. It's the most unsecure protocol on the internet. I think it's the SS7, the most unsecure protocol on the internet, and it's used for text messaging. And now we know that the company that runs it all has had someone going in and out of their infrastructure for 5 years, mining 740 billion messages. This is where our focus should be, not Facebook. Facebook was a human error. Here, think of two-factor authentication by text messages, banking. Think of how was someone able to beat it? Well, there it is, folks. Someone had access to Syniverse, and they need to man up and share the kind of information that was compromised and how it happened so we actually know. Move to our next story. Like I said, a lot of stuff going on today, folks. But a poorly configured Apache Airflow instance has been leaking credentials for many, many popular services. Cybersecurity researchers on Monday discovered a misconfiguration across older versions of the Apache Airflow instance belonging to a number of high-profile companies across various sectors. It results in the exposure of sensitive credentials for platforms like AWS, Binance, Google Cloud Platform, PayPal, Slack, and Stripe. Apache Airflow was launched in 2015. None of that really matters, folks. What does matter is that the misconfiguration with Airflow instance led to the exposure of those credentials, which could be abused by threat actors to gain access to accounts. So one, if you don't have two-factor authentication enabled, you're in a world of hurt. If you're doing it by text, you haven't learned anything over the last 2 days. Everything we've been talking about, everyone talks about MFA. We're in October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. MFA, everyone, just turn on your MFA. Turn on your MFA on an app, on your phone, not on text messaging. That's number one. Number two, also critically important, go change your passwords today. Please do so on anything like that. If you use Airflow at all, please go make sure that you're updating all your passwords. And at the moment, I don't know that there is a patch for this, is that once people get their hands on this, you can imagine that, well, I don't need to break down the story because you guys already know how it ends. So keep that in mind, folks. We'll move on to the Atom Silo ransomware operators are targeting the vulnerable Confluence servers. Last week, I reported on the fact that Confluence servers have been disclosed with the vulnerability. There's already an update now. Sophos is saying that they're seeing threat actors actually target Confluence servers, and if you're not applying the patch, you are at risk. The Confluence vulnerability is being actively exploited in the wild. And what they're doing is, we've seen the Jenkins also get compromised in September, folks. Please, please, please make sure you get your Confluence environments patched as soon as humanly possible. They get in. If you're unpatched, they're demanding $200,000 in ransom, according to Sophos, and that's just in one case. So we know that they vet the customers they do this on. We know that once they target you, they ask for a significant amount of money. And this one, they were asking for $200,000. Don't let yourself be the guy who goes to 5 billion or 5 million. Sorry. And I go to 5 billion because the UK has been listening to my podcast. And I want to say thank you. Thank you so much to the government of the UK for finally listening to something I've been talking about for 2 years. The only way to reduce cybersecurity incidents, the only way to start snapping away at the cybercrime enterprise is to hit them back where it hurts. The UK is doing just that. They plan to invest £5 billion, which is the equivalent of around $7 billion, in retaliatory cyber attacks on nation-state actors. They're creating a cyber force, which its entire purpose is to create retaliatory attacks. The cyber warfare is being embraced as the fifth domain in international conflict. It's being incorporated into core function aspects of nations, including the military. The UK Secretary for Defense, Ben Wallace, points out in an interview with The Telegraph, Britain isn't only looking to strengthen its stand against threats, it's also going to build up its capacity to launch retaliatory attacks. The goal is to strike on tier 1 attacks, including critical sectors of hostile states like Russia, China, and North Korea, Wallace points out that Britain will be one of very few countries in the world that will have the capacity to mount offensive cyber attacks at such scales, essentially discouraging any further attempts against them. The UK has been hardly hit. WannaCry crippled NHS, led to extreme situations going on. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said that they plan to look at getting this updated, up and running by 2030. So 9 years, folks. Take that for a grain of salt, but good for the UK actually doing this. Really, bravo. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Always here to humbly give you what we need to do. Launch these cyber forces, target these nation states, target their lower APTs that they hire to do their dirty work, go after those people, and watch how our threat landscape decreases. The real actors start to pop up on all of our screens and we know who they are. And then collectively, we can actually win this war. So that's that. We end with this. Google issued over 50 serious patches, over 50 serious vulnerabilities in Android. On Monday, Google announced the availability of a new security patch for Android. It's aimed at addressing more than 50 vulnerabilities in their mobile operating system. The most severe of the security flaws is an Android system component that could be exploited to achieve remote code execution. Only 10 vulnerabilities were resolved with the security patch level, the first part of this month's update. These include the high severity issues in Android runtime, framework, media framework, and system. The second part of the software will roll out to devices today. And it addresses 41 vulnerabilities, 3 of which carry a severity rating of critical. So make sure if you do use an Android device to get it updated. Now, I don't want to say bye without getting to some of your comments because I was trying to get through this. Amal says, hey, at least no one directly blamed the intern or internet. Love it. Larry says, I'm not saying it was aliens. Good morning to Corinne. Ashley agrees. This touches everyone. Talking about the Syniverse SMS public disclosure, 740 billion text messages a year is what they process. 740 billion. That's with a B. This is not Equifax. This isn't OPM. This isn't Marriott. This is significant, folks. Morning to Mark. And CR says, nice, interesting, and about time. I completely agree about the £5 billion that the UK is investing in launching Cyberforce. Folks, that's it for us here today. Tomorrow, we'll be back again right here at 9 a.m. with another awesome practitioner brief. We are on baby watch at the Azar house. So for whatever reason, you don't see me here, you'll see James McQuiggan. He'll be filling in for me while I'm out on baby watch. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Have an awesome, awesome week. And go check out the CISO Talk with Michael Felker. You don't want to miss it, folks. You really don't want to miss it. It is going to be great. Tune in. It's different from any other podcast I've done. We really got technical this time. It was a lot of fun. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into today's show. See you tomorrow. Until then, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.